Alright, what's up? It's the UFC Savant back with another Fight Night breakdown. This week we have an interesting matchup in Jack Hermansson versus Joe Pyfer. Joe Pyfer is taking a massive step up. He's currently unranked and he's going to be fighting number 11 Jack Hermansson. Tough veteran who's hard to put out, but Joe Pyfer's just been on a massive finish streak. 4-fight finish streak. I believe he's shown he can put guys out cold on the feet. He's shown he can submit guys, so it'll be interesting to see how we'll do against Hermansson, who's a really hard guy to put out. Also on the card, we have a lot of Dana White's Contender Series alums, so it'll be interesting to see how some of these prospects do. And it's one of those fight night cards, of course. Not a ton of name value, but I think there are a lot of interesting matchups that could make for some good fights, so we'll see. Real quick, I'm gonna show my record from last week, my predictions. Of course, the 1 week I didn't upload a actual prediction video. I ended up number 6 overall in the Tapology ranking, so just gonna go through like 1 or 2 minutes, just fly through real quick my predictions on that card, and let's go. So yeah, as you can see, real quick, because I didn't do a prediction video last week, I did pretty good on picks last week. 10 of 13 winners. The Muradov-Kazraev fight ended in like 10 seconds because of the eye poke, so that's voided. But 5 perfect picks, and I get real quick. Pogues versus Peterson. 2 unranked fat heavyweights, out of shape heavyweights. It was kind of 50-50 in my eyes. I like Pogues as the underdog to start, so I went with him. Medeiros and Quinones had a good fight on the feet. I think it was closer than like the live odds were having it, but Medeiros I ended up winning that one. Carolina, that was a sweat. She ended up getting the finish with 10 seconds left in the third round. After she was arguably down 2 rounds to none. And then Lee ended up winning by decision. Garimbo, he won by knockout in like 30 seconds. I was not expecting that. I think a lot of people had him by submission. That was also the most probable odds. And then Charles Johnson surprised a lot of us. Won a decision over Asmat Maxim. Molly McCann, another surprise, won by submission for the first time, I think, in her career. No one saw that coming. Radke, first round knockout over Gilbert Arena. I was kind of just going off his last post-fight interview. I just knew that guy was crazy. Muradov, that was a no contest. Natalia Silva, she beat the piss out of Araujo. Pretty good. Randy Brown knocked out Muslim Salikov. I love the reach advantage for Randy Brown, and to win by knockout was plus 400, which I thought were really good odds. I thought on the next fight Dober was going to be able to find the finish. He was piecing Moicano up on the feet, but Moicano was able to get him down, get control time, go for a couple submissions. Kind of wet blanketed him, but I guess it was a good safe return for Moicano, who after the fight was saying he was dealing with injuries and things like that. And then for the last one, Imavov, when I saw that end of the first round, when he basically knocked out Dolidze and threw like 30 unanswered strikes, I was sure the round 2 KO was going to cash or happen, but it didn't. Of course, it somehow went to a decision, which is insane. Dolidze definitely has some heart, but yeah, I just wanted to go through my picks real quick, and now let's move on to the actual predictions. Alright. Sorry about how late this upload's going up. I recorded the first half of this video a few days ago, and then this card really, really, really lacks the power to give me motivation to want to do a full card breakdown, but here we go. Daniel Marcos versus Aorica Lang. I'm going to go with Daniel Marcos to get this one done. He's an undefeated prospect. He's looked good in his fights. Had a close fight in his last fight against Davey Grant, which ended in a split decision that you could argue should have gone to Grant. But Marcos still looked good, and he's a quick guy on the feet, mixes his shots up well. his second to last fight against Simon Oliveira, you saw him mixing it to the body. Ended up getting a knee to the liver TKO win. Aoric Lang 3-3 in the UFC. Decision win over Jay Perrin. I mean, that's really all you have to say. His nickname's the Mongolian Murderer. I think he has one finish in the UFC, so I don't think Marcos will be hit with anything. I don't think he has to worry about Aori's power or anything like that. Moving on up the card. Oh, I'm going with Daniel Marcos 30-27 decision, final pick. Moving on up the card to Hyder Emil versus Fernie Garcia, a dog shit fight on the UFC Apex. We're starting to get used to him, but I'm going with Hyder Emil because he's fighting Fernie Garcia. Fernie Garcia hasn't won a fight since his Contender Series win. He has lost to good competition. It's not like he's gotten finished. His last fight against Rinya Nakamura. That's a hard guy to beat. That he's a nasty prospect. I believe Garcia is also moving up to featherweight. Hyder Emil, he looked really good in his Contender Series debut. He's an aggressive guy, mixed up the wrestling well. I think he'll be able to get this one done by decision too, using his wrestling and just keeping Garcia up against the cage and on the ground. So I'm going to go Hyder Emil 30-27 decision. I know this is a survival fight as far as a contract for Garcia, but it's going to be tough. And I believe they had the odds wrong on that. I believe Hyder Emil is the favorite. And if he's not, hammer his money line. Moving on up the card, Zach Pauga versus Bogdan Guskov. I am going to go with Bogdan Guskov to get this one done. I'm going knockout in the first round. You look at this dude's wins. His last fight out, he lost to Volkan Ozdemir, which is a tough fight to get for your UFC debut. But you look at this dude's record, he's knocking everybody out in the first round. He has so many knockouts. Zach Pauga, on the other hand, not the fastest light heavyweight. Lost to Mo Usman, lost to Modestas Bukauskas. Bogdan Guskov's also an underdog. He's I think right now he's like plus 105, maybe 115. And his KO's like plus 165. I think that's a really good bet to take. The only way I see Pauga winning this is maybe kind of getting the clinches going, but I don't think Pauga will have the finishing power to knock out Guskov. Moving on to Jeremiah Wells versus Max Griffin. Now, two older guys on the card. Max Griffin's been around, definitely the more experienced guy, even though Wells has a lot of experience too. Wells looked great and was on a big finishing streak. You see here, all finishes, and then lost to Carlson Harris in a fight that he was winning. Then Harris snatched up a submission. So Max Griffin, just older guy. I don't think he's gonna be as fast. I'm going to go with Jeremiah Wells to get this one done by decision. This is just another fight. Griffin's kind of a durable guy, tough to put out, but on the older end, I just don't see it for him. And minus 150, Wells has really good odds to put in a parlay you might want to toss him in for. I think we'll be able to help that. Moving on up the card to Devin Clark versus Marcin Prachnio. Now, two guys who are both William Knight abuse enjoyers. If you see a large brolic black dude limping to your porch delivering your Amazon package, it's probably as a result of these two guys. In all seriousness, Devin Clark, great wrestler. Prachnio, really, he kind of has a karate background. He's just going to try to keep you at range with his kicks, which worked really good in his last win against William Knight, but William Knight literally didn't engage at one point throughout the 3 rounds, and Prachnio never got the finish. So I'm going to go with Devin Clark to be able to get this one done. Another decision. I'm going to go 29-28. I think Prachnio might start off strong in the first round, do some good work on the feet, and then eventually Clark will take over in 2 and 3. Moving on up the card to Loma Lookboon versus Bruna Brazil. I'm going Loma Lookboon to get this one done. Another decision. I hope that I'm wrong and there's a lot of finishes, but I don't see there being too many on this card. Loma Lookboon, nasty striking, really good Muay Thai, training out of Thailand. I think she is from there. Yeah, from there too. It's fucking red on the screen. I'm acting like I don't know, but I don't think Bruna Brazil has anything for her on the feet. Maybe if it gets to the ground, she can grind out some boring stuff. But, yeah, Loma Lookboon. She's looked great in her fights with the striking. I might even want to roll finish Loma Lookboon to win by KO, TKO, because she's definitely favored to win by decision. It's WMMA. It's rare you're favored to win by knockout. But, yeah, if those odds are like plus 300 getting to that range for Loma by KO, I wouldn't mind sprinkling a little bit on that. But go Loma Lookboon. I'm going to officially say 30-27. Another piece them up throughout the whole fight decision. Moving on up the card to Bolaji Oki versus Timothy Kwamba. Now, this Timothy guy, let me just look real quick. Yeah, he's this was a short notice fight. I forget who Oki was supposed to fight, but you look at Oki's wins: KO, KO, decision, KO, KO. Dude can fucking scrap. Nasty power. Has knocked almost everyone he's fought out. And yeah, honestly, this Timothy guy, he's taking it on short notice. I don't know shit about him. Not a lot of people do, but I don't even remember. Who was supposed to fight Oki on this card. I mean, I'm not all over Big Marcel's fucking Twitter, worried about who's falling out on a prelim fight for Hermansson versus Pyfer, but I'm just gonna go with Oki, second round knockout. Don't know too much about his opponent. No, he didn't really get a contract from the Contender Series, but they're giving him a chance. Moving on up the card to Trevin Giles versus Carlos Prates. Now, Carlos Prates, nicknamed the Nightmare, he is a nightmare. Nasty striking. Look at this. Come to the UFC. All knockouts. I believe he's on something like a 7-fight knockout streak. And Trevin Giles, this guy's been everywhere as far as weight goes. In his chin, I mean, knocked out by Dricus, knocked out by Mike Morales, submitted by Bonfim. But I believe it was a 205er, then a 185er, then a 170er, and as a questionable chin, going up a nasty kickboxer in Carlos Prates. I'm going to take Carlos Prates to get this one done by knockout in the second round. Just head kick rocks Giles. Giles goes down, covers up, and just gets battered to a finish. I hate that I'm uploading this prediction so late, but next week is to UFC 298. Extremely good card. That one I'm gonna have up early in the week, probably Tuesday or Wednesday. Moving up the card to Rodolfo Vieira versus Armen Petrosian, the Armenian. Now, I think Guskov. And is there one other underdog I've taken on this card so far? I'm not even 100% sure, but I really like Armen Petrosian in this fight. He is a slight underdog. I think he's moved up a little to minus 105, but still really good odds. And Rodolfo Vieira, nasty guy on the ground. If this gets to the ground at all, in any situation, Petrosian is in some trouble. But Petrosian's looked pretty good so far in his UFC career. Last time out, I think he beat just like kickbox Christian Leroy Duncan, CLD, nasty kickboxer. Armen was able to piece him up with the feet. CLD was just going for like crazy spinning stuff, if I can remember, and kind of started to fight stupid. But it's a great win for Petrosian. He's a nasty striker. Only loss in the UFC, I believe, is to Calvaralho, who's shown that he's nasty. Now, another nasty guy on the ground. So you have to think if Vieira follows a similar game plan, maybe he'll be able to grind out Petrosian, but I think Petrosian is going to be able to keep it on the feet good enough, and I'm going to go with Petrosian to get this one done in a 29-28 close decision. I could even see a split decision for this fight. One of those, it depends on if you score damage or control time more. Moving up, we have Michael Johnson versus Darius Flowers. Now, this is an interesting one. I see a ton of people picking Michael Johnson, which I get. Darius Flowers' hands do not look great. Lost to Jake Matthews by decision in his most recent fight, but that KO loss Michael Jackson had to Diego Ferreira put out cold. What probably arguably the most brutal knockout that was in the UFC in 2023. The Aguilar one, that flyweight, that was also a brutal one, but Johnson got put out cold, and that is a tough one to recover from. I know Johnson's one of those guys, there's a meme, he could knock out Khabib, and then in his next fight he could move down to flyweight and lose to like any flyweight, whatever. The dude has a way of winning fights you don't expect him to, which they're giving him these odds. So I really like Darius Flowers to win this by knockout. Odds are I believe I was looking at the odds are like plus 240 for a Flowers knockout. I really like that for him. He does not finish a lot of his fights, but you see guys come back. Phil Hawes, you see guys come back from getting brutally knocked out, and it just doesn't go their way. Johnson's also 8 years older than him. I just don't like this one for Johnson, so it's another underdog pick I really like. We're going up the card. Brad Tavares versus Gregory Rodriguez. Brad Tavares in his last fight out did have a dominant decision win, and the comeback over Chris Weidman brutalized his legs over 3 rounds, which everyone knows Weidman's coming back on that from that horrible leg break that he had in 2021, but he wasn't able to finish Brad Tavares. He wasn't able to finish Chris Weidman, which is crazy. He could have had Weidman out of there, I think. He was playing it careful, smart by him, but when you have a guy in that position, you don't go for it. And then Gregory Rodriguez, we see him. Chin got a little sketchy. He did get knocked out by Bruno Ferreira, but then came back, I believe on the same card as Tavares, and knocked out, was it Petrosky that he knocked out, or was it GM3? Dennis Tululin. Oh, okay. Yeah, it was Dennis Tululin. That was on the Boston card. And he's shown more finishing potential more recently. Younger guy. I think he has nasty power in his hands. I want to say Rodriguez by decision, because Tavares is a tough guy to put out. Him and Sean Strickland are the only guys that Dricus hasn't been able to finish in the UFC. So Tavares is tough. But I think Rodriguez is going to end up finding a knockout in the 3rd round. It's going to be Gregory Rodriguez by 3rd round knockout. Moving on up the card to Ihor Potieria versus Robert Bershek. This is another one. You see this. Ihor Potieria lost by KO. Win by KO. Lost by KO. Lost by KO. Dude's chin has been cracked in his last couple fights. Robert Bershek, on the other hand, good Polish prospect. He fought. This is his UFC debut as well. It's another one of those ones, you know. You see Potierria's chin deterioration. It doesn't want to make you want to pick him. It's always sketchy picking guys who are coming to the UFC with a little bit of hype around them, but I just don't see it for Ihor Potieria. This is going to be a stand-up fight. I think Bershek's gonna get him out of there early. I'm gonna go Bershek first round knockout. Just cracks him with punches, and that could be it for Pretaria. They were trying to push this guy, and he was doing good, but especially coming into the UFC, but it's going to be tough for him. Moving on up the card, Dan Ige versus Andre Fili. Now, this Andre Fili took this fight on only, I think, like 5 days' notice. I forget who originally was supposed to be in the spot, but I like Dan Ige to win this fight. He arguably beat Bryce Mitchell in his last fight, who's a really hard guy to go to decision with. And Andre Fili, Andre Fili already fought this year. I think he fought in this. Yeah, I believe he fought on the December card, on the Covington card. Nasty hands for Fili. I just don't like that he hasn't had a complete training camp. Ige randomly finds power in his hands. He had a knockout win over Damon Jackson. Goes to decision with Nate Landwehr. Landwehr's a wild guy, and he went to decision with him. I really like that fight for Ige. I think he's going to be able to get it done by decision. Fili's a tough dude, so I'm going to go Dan Ige 29-28 decision win. All right, now for the main event, Joe Pyfer versus Jack Hermansson. Now, this is actually a fight on the card that I'm interested in. The entire card's pretty lackluster other than this one. It's a massive test for Joe Pyfer, and I'm interested in seeing how he does against Hermansson. Hermansson's obviously more the vet, and a pretty durable guy, but Pyfer's just coming to the UFC, and his nickname's Body Bags, and that's what he's been doing to his opponents. He showed in his last fight out against Abdul Razak Al Hassan that he can also do well on the feet. I believe he dropped Hassan and ended the fight with a submission. And other than that, knocked out GM3, all this stuff. So he's been really good at knocking out the dudes outside of the rankings, and I definitely think Jack Hermansson's a good test up the rankings for him. I think Hermansson right now is right around just outside of the top 10 spot, so it'll be interesting to see how Pyfer does against him. And for Hermansson, his last win against Chris Curtis, when Curtis was going crazy, getting pissed because he said Hermansson was running away. If you rewatch that fight, I don't think Hermansson was doing anything wrong. He was keeping Curtis at range, and Curtis, if you don't stand in the pocket and trade with Curtis, he gets mad at you. Thinks you're running away from the fight, which I don't like. Hermansson showed that he can use his range well. He has a slight reach on Pyfer, but it's just Hermansson's stand-up. There is zero aspect of it that I think poses any danger to most middleweights, especially a young dude like Pyfer, who's always pissed. And just the Pyfer's aura, I feel like you get in the ring and you know he's just gonna come out batshit crazy and fucking get you. And in Dolidze's last fight, in Hermansson's last fight against Dolidze, he was doing very well on the feet and let Dolidze bring it to the ground, where that's the only area Dolidze is comfortable in. He ended up winning by ground and pound TKO. So Hermansson has been finished, but not often. He is a durable guy, and I just think Pyfer's going to come out. He's pissed, salty at the media. You see every single interview he has. I think he's going to make easy work of Hermansson and knock him out in the first round. I think there are better tests that will test Pyfer, but Hermansson's one of those guys that will launch Pyfer into potentially getting a top 10 opponent next. So that's my pick. I'm going to go Joe Pyfer, first round knockout, just catching Hermansson clean and finishing up on the ground. And that's it. Thank you guys for watching. I hate that I recorded this late, but these cards, man, whatever. Next week is a really, really good one. I'm excited for it. So see y'all then. Thank you. Let me know your thoughts. I'll put so much more thought into the predictions next week. This one was tough, but thank you guys.